Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell and this is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got Chris Howe, who is from Your Results Coach. Chris, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sonia. Thank you for having me.
Now, Chris, you've been in business now for 12 months, doing your own thing, starting from scratch. But before that and prior to that, you've worked in various demanding roles, I believe, throughout your career. And then you made a transition. Like I just mentioned, you've gone off to do your own business, but you're also a specialist in not just coaching, but also an alcohol performance coach. This is something we've never discussed before here on Business Spotlight. So I'm just quite intrigued, and I'm pretty sure some of our listeners will be intrigued to know, what does that mean?
Okay, a good question. So I'll start with the background. So time served director in the recruitment sector. So 24 years in the recruitment world from a very young age, to be honest. Demanding sector, hard work, demanding clients, candidates and people. You're working with people. So, we're sort of working with one of the most unreliable commodities at times, to be honest with you. Roller coaster of emotions when you're doing that sort of role. But with the seniority of functioning as a director and employing over 100 staff across the country and having that responsibility, when problems arose and they hit my level, they were big problems. So that's part of the reason, and that's part of the sort of catalyst for the reason why I've moved into my own coaching practice. However, there's more to it than that. So during that time, and this will be really common, it's a common thing in society, it's a common thing in business, not just recruitment, loads of other sectors, is that alcohol is used for client entertainment. Alcohol is used to incentivize staff. Alcohol is used in an evening to de-stress after a busy day, after I've had a good day, after I've had a tough day, after I've had a stressful day. I'm going to have a glass of wine, beer, whatever it's going to be. And that becomes a social thing, of course, with your partner or maybe down the pub or whatever it's going to be. My drinking habits, I partied my way through my early years. I mean, I'm in Hanley now, and I've been in some real states in the middle of this town back in the old days, and it was the norm, socially acceptable that come a weekend, you'd go out, you'd have a load of beers. It wasn't a few beers, it was a load of beers, and that was all part of that was the fun. Now, where I ended up is that I would say functioning alcoholic is the right term to use, but it's really the word alcoholic can be understood in different ways by different people. So I wasn't in the town in Hanley, at Fountain Square where I used to work on a market stall as a lad, with the homeless people that were unfortunately then they got the brown paper bags, the whiskies, the vodkas, the white lightning, nothing like that. I was just a regular drinker. So this would be after work, could be 2 beers, could be a bottle of wine, could be maybe a bit more than that, sharing it with my wife or previous fiance at this point in time. And it just became an ongoing regular habit. And the red button was hit. I had a young family, young kids, it's really challenging when you've got young nippers, they're very demanding, loads of responsibility. They need you all the time. There's lots of tears, lots of tantrums. That, alongside the pressures I had in business and I worked with some customers were spending over £30 million on my services. So they expected a piece of me, which I get, that's completely fair. But what happened is the amalgamation of all those things, young family, work stresses and drinking too regularly, I knew, it took me a while, but I knew in my heart of hearts something needed to give. And there was a point at home, I went upstairs, I went to the loo, I'd already had a beer or two and I'd come down and my stress was just through the roof. It was I didn't have any sort of mental breakdown or anything like that, but I was in a pretty dark place. I have to be honest with that. And I just walked downstairs to my wife and said, I've got to stop this now. Something's got to give. So that was the point at which I then went on my own mission, working with a coach, taking I actually was completely and utterly sober for 2.5 years, didn't touch a drop, nothing. And during that time, which is where the new practice comes in, I then trained as a coach.
Okay.
I then trained in the field of alcohol-free and alcohol control coaching. But I also, it's not just about that. the work that I do, because it goes beyond that in terms of behaviours, habits, lifestyle routines, starting to work on mindset, and then moving into business. So the reason I'm here now, on nearly my 12-month anniversary, with a first year I'm quite proud of, is I want to work with people, business leaders, senior executives that have found themselves in a similar place to what I did, because I've now got the tools to be able to support them to live such a completely and utterly different life to what they may be doing at this point in time.
And you mentioned there, your own story. You identified yourself. It was nobody else who told you, something's got to change. If I want to do better, or if I want to make even a life-changing, decision, which you did, because you've gone into business by yourself and started something from completely nothing.
Yeah.
I suppose for some people that identifying that, or even admitting that, could be quite difficult.
So admitting the alcohol side of things.
Yeah, or they need help, support.
Yeah. I think this, and all of my clients currently are male. And I think within the male world and within businessmen in the business world, it's so difficult to just open up and be vulnerable. Because how can I do that? I'm a business leader. I'm employing tens, if not hundreds of staff, so I can't show any vulnerability. And that is that I went to a coach, and that's the beauty of a relationship with a coach, is you don't have to go home and be super vulnerable to your partner, where you don't, as a man, I don't want to show too much weakness to my wife, although I did tell my wife, this is what I'm doing, I'm changing. But actually going outside of your life, outside of business, outside of peers, outside of line management, outside of staff, outside of family and friends, an independent person where you can actually just be completely and utterly transparent. That's where you can really achieve fantastic results.
And in business now.
Yes.
You're in business yourself with a big smile on your face. Congratulations in your first year of business. I know how tough it can be, Chris, but anyway, that's life. But now, you've done 12 months in business. You've done it yourself. You've experienced that from starting and making that life-changing decision, but also working with the people, clients that you're working with. I mean, how do you see what are the barriers, would you say, that are out there perhaps of people, or barriers you might face in business of somebody even approaching a coach?
Oh, this is a cracking question, because it's really personal. I think that's the best. And if it is also including alcohol, it is really tough to just open up and admit, look, hands up, and my relationship with alcohol isn't doing me any favours, I need help. So it's a really hard thing to do. So a lot of the marketing activity I do is on social media. And what I'm trying to do with the stories that I write is to create inbound inquiries of people that see what I do, think, do you know what, I can relate to that, I'm going to talk to Chris. Well, at that point, if they reach out to me, it's all in a safe space, completely confidential, and it's all, it's the safest place that they can ever talk to me in, really. But it's a really hard thing to do, and that commitment to yourself to want to change, particularly if it's a fitness thing. I'll be honest, I think that's quite easy. You go and find yourself a PT or a nutritionist or something. I don't think there's a stigma attached to not eating very good food. Look at how many McDonald's we've got surrounded by and all the fast food places. So but with alcohol, there's a stigma attached to it. There is, because of the word. I think because of the word alcoholic. To be honest with you, I think that's the bit what puts people in a place of, I can't admit this. I can't admit I've got a problem with alcohol. It's a real problem. So the barriers are definitely there. I have people that will approach me, will engage in conversation initially, messaging, and they'll just disappear again. And the word I'll use here is ambivalence. And the problem you have with alcohol is you've got this little seesaw of ambivalence that says it's great, it's good, it's fun, but then the aftermath of the hangovers, the anxiety, the raised stress levels, the lethargy, the poor sleep, all of the things that come with an unhealthy relationship, even just going on a blast out on a Friday night, you'll get those feelings. And the problem is that I have people that will approach me. There's one particular person, 6th of January, he approached me, we drifted. And I had another message about 3 months later at 7:36 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And I know what's happened. He's approached me when he's on the downside of alcohol. But then once that's cleared after 3 or 4 days and you're back into, I feel okay now, so I'm going to have a drink again because that's fun. Well, there's no need for me at that point, is there? Because everything's okay again. So making a decision to address an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, I think, is one of the most difficult things to do, because it's different to hard drugs. If we were talking like, horrible, the heroin of this world and crystal meths and those really nasty things, maybe it's easier to own up to that, because it's pretty bad stuff. But alcohol's so socially acceptable. I think it's just a really tough one for people to open up about sometimes. Albeit there is a real shift in trends now with alcohol-free drinks. Social activities and events and club nights and pubs and bars that are popping up that are all alcohol free. So there's a significant shift, and I think that the work that I'm doing, along with thousands of people out there now that are trying to create I wish I'd had this earlier in my life, is education and real crystal clear awareness about what alcohol actually does. And it's not all fun. Ultimately, alcohol effectively is a depressant, and it's classed in the same category as heroin on that basis. But everybody, including me in my early years, drinking alcohol's fun. It's an upper. It's a stimulant, but actually, it's the opposite. So,
yeah.
Does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. And, we've talked quite a bit about that and what you do there, as an alcohol performance coach. But on the other side as well, you do different work, I suppose, in a different way of coaching with business leaders. Is this business leaders, again, what sort of, on a different slant from the alcohol, what would business leaders, or what do you see business leaders are their biggest sort of, not issues, but again, difficulties perhaps, or struggles that we're facing now in 2024? Is there something particularly relevant, or is it just, various trends that go on throughout the years?
What I'll do is I'll share some of the topics that some of the customers I work with now have come to me. So these are business owners. Some are in recruitment. My background's in recruitment, so I guess my ideal customer is going to be a recruitment business owner. In fact, one of my new customers yesterday is a recruitment business owner, which is almost like the perfect match. But outside of that, what the general things that I will see people coming to me with, a lot of customers come to me and they've already done the alcohol thing. They've stopped, they've taken a break. They've sort of dealt with that, but they know that I understand that. So they've got the comfort blanket of me as a coach. They know I get alcohol, so that's perfect. So it's almost like a pair of stabilizers. But then the other things that we'll then work on, so some examples, stress, overwhelm. Delegation's quite a big one that's really its head a few times. These business leaders have got a lot of responsibility and actually sometimes are not the most effective at delegating. I've got one client, real rock solid business. I mean, super, super successful guy, but a perfectionist. And on that basis had high standards, and on that basis was struggling to delegate effectively because he wanted the standards of that work to meet his exacting standards. So we've had to do some work on, I use an exercise, I call it we made it 5 Ds, so around delegation. So it's actually 4 Ds officially. So you either do it, you either delegate it, you either diary it for a future date, or you dump it. And that exercise is for him he peeled back all of his to-do list. It was a big old to-do list. And with some this guy's been looking at sort of private equity investment and mergers and acquisitions. So real high value, big ticket stuff in his to-do list. But some of the other stuff was nowhere near the scale and value of that work. But we added in development because his concern was that it's okay to delegate something, but I may need to develop that team member to a level so that they can do that work. I said, I like that addition, so we added it in. However, when he did the exercise, there was very little development that was actually needed. He could adequately delegate probably about a third of his to-do list into his team. And he didn't then earmark that anyone needed developing to do it. So actually, do a full circle, we come back to procrastination, we come back to perfection. And actually, it was a him problem ultimately, headspace stuff. It was nothing to do with his team not being able to do the job, but it took that exercise, which we did together, to peel it all back for him to then realise. It was, it's a little, we have these little light bulb moments, and it's okay, I understand that, So there's an example, a typical example, but stress and overwhelm definitely. They're quite common themes that would come to me from a business leader, and it may or may not trace back to alcohol. I'll find that out with them. They might not, I'll work that out with them if it is or isn't an issue. But it could also be aligned to lifestyle habits as well. They may not be active enough. Nutrition could be poor. There could be some of the routines they've got are not very good. They could be using technology late at night, so it's impacting the sleep, and then the sleep isn't very good, because that's quite a hot topic for me. I really enjoy working with clients on sleep. So you see, my job here is there's none of my clients are exactly, they're all different. And the reason I do one-to-one work, and I really enjoy this, is that I love to peel back the layers and really work out, well, what is, you're telling me the problem's delegation, but actually when we worked it all the way back with this particular client, there's a bit of alcohol involved in that. But that takes me to weave through, my way through the weeds, should we say, to then work out exactly what it is. So that might give you a bit of an idea of how I work, because I'm not a pure business coach, and I don't want to be a pure sole business coach, because I know you can go and do all this work on your business, but if I unpack and unearth that you've got some really poor habits outside of work that I know are going to impact your work, I want to get them sorted first, and then we know we can have a significant impact in your business. So it has to be the leader as an individual, and I'll go into family and relationships and all sorts of stuff with my clients. Once we've got that in a healthy place, I know we can go and attack business then, and we can have an impact, really. So
yeah, I suppose, if the business leader is more in a happy space, so to speak, or less stressed with what's going on within their business and their work life or even personal life, that will probably filter down then, I imagine. If there's a team involved as well, a team of staff doing various different roles, again, being more open to certain things of delegation as well. I suppose in having that trust and allowing yourself to have that trust within how to delegate. But is it more, is it business leaders that you're working with in sort of larger businesses, or is it sort of smaller businesses as well that you do work with? And if you do work with both, is there a difference that you see? So,
size of company that somebody works for, honestly, it doesn't matter. So, I'm just about to kick off a relationship with a chap, CEO of a business that's got a European presence. He's just stepped into a chairman role. I don't even know how many employees, but hundreds. That's a big old business, that he's come from. And I've got other clients that are team of 10 or 11, so a much smaller size business. I think the point you've just mentioned there, I think this is really important, actually, because I think there's a broader message here from just my own. I believe there's a ripple effect to the work that I do. My immediate focus in terms of that, you drop the pebble in the lake and you get those ripples. The immediate impact that I want to have is to have the leader, their relationships, their family, their children, their lifestyle, their own headspace in a fantastic place, so we can impact their business and their own performance. But at the moment, there's a massive, huge sort of tidal wave of promotion around well-being of staff, mental health awareness, and some businesses are really, really poor at this. But if I can be in a position that I can influence the top of the tree, my own opinion is, if they have got well-being and their own lifestyle as a priority, it's much easier then to be able to create and generate a culture within that business that follows that lead. We're able to then influence behaviours in that business that can actually mean that, okay, so the leader's really looking after himself, so he's more productive. Can you imagine if it's a business of 100 people, I don't know, let's say 60% of them followed suit, and their performance and productivity all went through the roof, and people stayed and they were retained and they upskilled and they performed, and there was less cost to your business because you were keeping good people and they were happy and motivated and delivering. It's like an endless ripple, this, really. I suppose my stone needs to go into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, because it's an endless impact that this work can have. And obviously I'm speaking quite passionately because I feel really strongly about it. But yeah, my work is the individual, but hopefully that ripple effect just cascades throughout their business, really. So
And one more question then, Chris. Just going off on that as well. We talked there, you're talking about other businesses and culture and how those changes and identifying certain areas that might need support or help, and lifestyle changes does add to a culture. And whether, how big or how small that ripple effect is, that impact can be so powerful as well, and really help with growth or, various different things personally as well. But for you, you've just done 12 months with your results coach. I'm going to mention it again. What would you like to see with the work that you're doing and your own business for the next 12 months and the next 10 years?
Ooh. Right, that's really interesting.
Because coaches always, well, not always, but some coaches do ask sometimes, where do you see yourself? Blah, blah, blah. Those questions. It's not one of those questions. I'm just interested to know where you want to take the work that you're doing.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so next 12 months is continuing to build a community of clients that are all on the same mission to be better. That is, for me to surround myself with people that have been CEOs of large organisations, they're running successful businesses. I have a circle of people that I'm helping to influence and be better, that actually by default, I can be influenced from those people myself. I'm not beyond the fact that I can still learn, I can still grow and develop. So that's the first thing really, and continuing to be able to prove success and results with those clients. I've got some brilliant testimonials that I've been given now, some brilliant. I've had a wife of one of my clients message me and just say she's seen a difference at home. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm like, wow, how amazing! There's a ripple for you, which is brilliant. I think in the next 10 years, at the moment I have a job in my own business. That's what I have. Yeah, there's me, and I've got administrative assistants. Where I want to take the business to is to continue having an impact on people, their lives, their business. That's definitely my mantra. I want to see the impact on people's businesses. But ultimately, I want the business to be a business that I can work more on than in. So that will involve creating more inquiries on a larger client base to work with, employing other coaches that can bring different skills and different coaching skills to the table. And ultimately just grow the practice to a place where I don't want to be in a position. In fact, I've just been speaking to Rob downstairs about this. The last decade in recruitment has been high volume. Really, you work so hard for your money, it's untrue. It's all about volume. Whereas now, my preference would be that I have a practice. I'm not looking to scale something that's serving thousands and thousands of people, but I want a practice where I effectively work with elite people in business, and ultimately I get satisfaction from influencing that level of person's life, and I know I can, and actually have a bit of a lifestyle for myself as well. I in my old recruitment role, 60 hours a week was easy. 40,000 miles a year. I've done over 500,000 miles in the last 17 years in recruitment. So those days are gone. I want to be in a position that I can provide a top quality service to top quality clients and make sure that I've got enough time, because I've got to think about my family, don't forget, and my relationships and my wife and my lifestyle. So therefore, I've got to make sure I maintain that balance in my business going forward.
Brilliant. Chris, thank you so much for coming in here on Business Spotlight. That's Chris Howe, your results coach, here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonia Farrell.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.